Hello and welcome to Zestology, the podcast all about energy, vitality and motivation. Tony Whiten here on a mild early autumn evening, just strolling around the park near my house. And I've got a question for you. What is the first thing that you do in the morning? Absolutely the first thing. If you're like quite a lot of people these days, and this didn't used to be the case, if you're like quite a lot of people, it may well be check your phone. And as it turns out, there's an increasing body of research which suggests that checking your phone first thing in the morning and falling into the rabbit hole of Facebook or checking little fluffy dog pics on Instagram or even checking your emails and getting into work mode first thing is not necessarily the best thing for your brain. And that is why I've got the author of The 5 a.m. Miracle on my podcast today, best-selling book, and he is called Jeff Sanders. And really interesting concept. He basically says you've got to get up at 5 a.m. That's my first problem. Sounds a little bit like hell to me. And then you've got to kind of do a series of things in the morning, and that's going to make your mornings much more productive and fulfilled and happy and clear-headed. The problem is, I mean, if I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I've got to go to bed in about half an hour's time. So I'm going to keep an open mind for this podcast, but, you know, I'm just not sure about 5 a.m. What I do agree with Jeff on, though, is checking your phone first thing in the morning. I don't do it that much anymore, but even if, like, I kind of do all the things I know are good for me, like, I don't know, meditate or whatever, or just start the day without too much technology, sometimes if you reach for your phone first thing or even second thing in the morning, half an hour later you're like, where did that half hour go? I've just been aimlessly surfing through every app possible before delaying the inevitable and eventually getting up. So, bearing in mind your answer to that question, what is the first thing you do in the morning? Here he is, the author of The 5 a.m. Miracle, Jeff Sanders. Jeff Sanders, how you doing? Welcome to Zestology.
Well, thank you, Tony.
Thanks so much for coming on. I've been looking forward to talking to you and slightly dreading it as well because because my TV job here in the UK means that I have to work late a lot. And I've got a feeling that I would get a lot more done if I was able to get up early. But it's hard for me because, you know, if I don't finish working until midnight, you get back at 1 a.m. and then you kind of a bit wired, so it might take you an hour to fall asleep. So tell me about the benefits of the 5 a.m. miracle, and then I'm going to try and work out how I can maybe create a kind of 7 a.m. miracle.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I think with the 5 a.m. miracle, the way that I describe it on my podcast and in my book is that 5 a.m. was ideal for me when I first began my kind of early morning journey, but 5 a.m. is totally optional. So a 7 a.m. miracle is definitely doable.
Okay, good.
I think the real benefits to waking up early is waking up with intention. So you would say, well, there are certain things that I want to get done before my real workday begins. And what are those things going to be and how much time do I need? So for me, my whole journey began because I was trying to figure out how to make time to train for a marathon. And the only time I had was to wake up at 5 a.m. and go for a run and then get to work eventually. But that process was just figuring out what matters most to me and how can I make sure I'm scheduling those important things first thing in my day. And so that time could happen at any time you want. It's just a matter of you planning your day out in the most effective manner possible.
Right, yeah. Because actually, it's a very good point, that, because a lot of people wake up in the morning, and I know I used to be like this, and very occasionally when my kind of self-control slips, I still do this. The first thing people do in the day is check their emails in bed before they even get out of bed.
Yes.
Right? And I feel like that's kind of the wrong mindset to go into this whole wonderful day with all the possibility that it could hold for you to be checking some email from someone who might be annoying you a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I changed years ago was my phone is not in my bedroom. I turn it off and I have it charging in a whole other room in my house. And so it's impossible for me to check my phone from bed, which is the whole point, is I'm trying to figure out, like, how can I, isolate myself when I'm sleeping so that I can wake up and actually begin my day the way I want to. And then when I leave the bedroom, I can kind of just go off and let my morning routine go from there without just the, reactivity of saying, well, I'm just going to check Facebook real quick or just check email real fast. Like it never is real fast. It always absorbs so much more time than you want. And then your day begins reactively instead of proactively.
That's true, isn't it? You because the temptation is, well, I'll just have a quick look. But you get sucked into that Facebook vortex
Yes.
And it takes a while to pop out the other side, doesn't it?
Totally.
So actually, you leave it in the other room. You don't even have it in. You don't use it. You don't use the alarm on your phone in airport mode or anything like that.
Oh, no, I actually used to have that, and I used to use a sleep app on my phone. So my phone was actually in my bed with me while I was sleeping using this app. And so after a while, I realized this is just way too much closeness to my phone.
Yeah.
And so I had to get rid of it in that sense. And so it definitely is completely out of the bedroom. So I have no temptation there.
Do you know what? I've already learned something from you, Jeff, because I'm going to do that. I'm going to buy an alarm clock because I put my phone into airport mode, but then I need the alarm because I use the alarm on my phone. So I just need to buy an alarm clock now, don't I?
Yeah, I use a very old school alarm clock. It looks kind of, archaic, but at the same time, it's like that's what works and that's what keeps me from, doing the things I don't want to do first thing in the morning.
So the phone's in the other room charging away and you got the alarm clock going off. And then what? Tell me about the miracle.
Well, the miracle, I think, is really not that miraculous, but the way that I define it...
Don't talk it down, Jeff. It sounds
good.
Well,
here's the thing. The 5 a.m. miracle, as I define it in the book, is really just the idea of being intentional with wanting to dominate your day before breakfast.
Yes.
And so domination is a very subjective term in this sense. You choose the activities that matter most to you, and then you prioritize those right away. So for me, that would mean waking up at 5 a.m. First thing I do is go to my bedroom, outside the bedroom, I go put on my workout clothes. And workout clothes being the first thing I do in the day is reminding me right away, one thing I want to do this morning is go work out. And so if the first action I'm taking is put those clothes on, well, then I am already preparing myself for that first activity. And then after that, I drink a full liter of water, which is something that most people think is kind of outrageous because it sounds like a lot of water, and it is.
It does sound like a lot of water, yeah.
But that's the intention, is that I am flooding my body with something that really does wake me up very naturally. And also, most people, if you are asleep for 8 hours or more, you're very dehydrated. And having that extra water helps in a big way to get your body really functioning well in the morning, and you wake up surprisingly fast because of the water alone without the need for coffee. So that's a really important part of my morning routine.
So my background is NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and one of the things we talk about is modeling, where we model successful people. I'm finding this very interesting, because at the moment we're modeling you at a kind of behavior level, a routine level, and maybe a little bit later on we can model you at a much higher level of values and beliefs, because I think that might be as useful. But just to carry on with your routine, the workout clothes are there reminding you that even if you're a bit tired, you want to have a workout, and you have the liter of water, and then do you go and work out before you do anything else?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the day, because one of the things I do while I'm drinking the liter of water is I'm looking at my task manager. So I'm at that point like I'm priming myself for what are the main priorities I have for my day, both personally and professionally. And so that's a reminder of, okay, well, here's how far I'm going to run this morning.
Yeah.
And then when I get back from the run, here's that first work activity that I want to get to, and what time does that begin? And let's make sure that the timing is right, because my schedule flexes quite a bit, and I want to make sure that I am reminded when I wake up what those priorities are, and then I'm thinking about those throughout the morning routine to make sure that I'm working towards my most important things. A lot of times I might do a little bit of reading before I do my workouts, because it takes a little bit of time to drink a full liter of water. I don't chug it all at once. And so during that kind of preparation time, I'm really just waking myself up as best I can before the workout begins. And so it could be very simple activities at this point. I know a lot of people will meditate at this point, reading, prayer, just whatever it is that you want to do to get your mindset for the day. And I'll do those activities before the workout. That way, when the workout begins, I'm hydrated, I am excited about my day, and then I come back from that workout with all that energy, and then from there I can grab a shower and then begin my workday from there.
I mean, Jeff, it just sounds like you're so on it. I'm not sure I could be ever quite as motivated and as super on it as you are. There must be some days when you've had a couple of glasses of wine the night before, you stumble out of bed a bit bleary-eyed, and you switch on Facebook.
I mean, those days have definitely happened. Actually, speaking of wine, I interviewed a guy on my podcast. He was the creator of oneyearnobeer.com.
Oh yeah, I read about this on your site. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so he challenged me to give up alcohol for a full year. So for the last probably 2 months now, I have not had any alcohol, and that has definitely made a difference in my morning routine, because those groggy-eyed late mornings really aren't happening anymore. I'm not waking up as exhausted as maybe I would if I was drinking the night before.
So you found that's made a serious difference to your health and your general energy levels?
Oh, no doubt. I think it surprised me how much of a difference that it made, because I was one of those people where I was totally fine to have a glass of wine in the evening or a beer after work. But then it got to the point where, well, this was kind of a habitual thing. I was doing it so often. I was like, well, this certainly is not helping me. And so when I was challenged to not do that anymore, I found that right away my evenings were more productive, and then the next morning I woke up with more clarity and more energy. And I lost weight. I was surprised, like, wow, I must have drank more than I thought I was doing. That's kind of the accidental bad habits we fall into, and it's really good to be reminded of what those better habits would be. And so for me, that really did make a big difference in how I woke up in the morning, and then how I was able to then flow in a healthier pattern from there.
Yeah. Well, it's probably something that would help me. I'm a real lightweight, so I should probably get involved. So are you still getting up at 5 a.m. now?
My 5 a.m. wake-up call varies from day to day. Most days it's 5 a.m. It'll depend on, and sometimes I have evening activities that run late, and so I'll sleep in a little bit from there.
Yeah.
But my goal is always to get back to 5 a.m. as often as possible. And so I let my schedule flex when it needs to, but once it gets back to the idea of being intentional, if I am planning my day, I can choose to wake up later as long as I know that I'm still prioritizing my main activities, and I'm going to get back to 5 a.m. as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's cool. Because I'm friends with Evan Brand. I don't know if you know him, but he presents the Not Just Paleo podcast, and we met in LA last year. We went to this party, and he said, Tony, this is the first time I've been out after midnight in a very long time. And, much as I love a kind of disciplined, healthy life, I like to think that every once in a while I can go out late and party as well. And it sounds to me like you've got enough flexibility in your routine that you can build that in. And actually, Evan's cool with, very occasionally doing that, and the rest of the time he likes going to bed early, so that's okay.
Yeah, I think that if you ask me kind of on a regular day, like when would I ideally like to go to sleep and wake up? On the most days the answer is, well, I want to go to bed early so I can wake up early because that's what I enjoy. But I certainly want to be a human being and be social and have activities, and I'm not opposed to that whatsoever. It's just the question of, on an ideal scenario, what does my life look like? And for me, that tends to be earlier mornings work best. And so I want to make sure that is happening as often as possible.
Now, I know from your website, and I've been looking forward to asking you this, Jeff, that you track stuff. And I like tracking. And I found it quite hard to track effectively. And I haven't found any apps that quite do the job that I want to do. Tell me about what you track and how it helps you.
So I have a very simple Excel spreadsheet where I track some daily habits, and they're very simple. And I intentionally made it easy for myself. I think when I first began tracking habits, I did what a lot of people do, so I tracked everything, and it was very overwhelming right away. And so I backed it off and just said, well, what are my most important habits? Like, what would matter the most to me on most days? And so that means waking up early. It means working out, having a morning smoothie, having a salad for lunch or dinner, reading every day, and then hopefully having at least 1 or 2 focused blocks of time where I have no distractions. I'm getting really important work done. And so those are my 6 habits that I do hopefully every single day. Not every day works out that way, but that's my goal, is to make sure that I'm doing these things that keep me healthy and energized and working well. And I track those in a very basic, simple spreadsheet that says, here's what happened today, here's what happened last week, here's how the totals and the numbers are looking, so I can see, am I on track to hitting my goals or not? And with that very basic system in place, I'm able to hit so many more habits now over and over again than I was before, because I'm consciously aware of where I am.
That's cool. So you do it on an Excel spreadsheet?
Yes, it's very simple. I mean, there's a lot of apps in the world that will track these things with a lot fancier data, and I've used a few of them in the past, but I don't want to be on my phone that much every day, so I tend to use this spreadsheet just because I'm working on the computer most of the time anyway, and that works out best for me.
So do you track stuff like, because obviously you've got this information, do you then draw correlations, like, for instance, on the days you did wake up at 5 a.m., you worked out more, for example? Do you ever use that data for that?
Yeah, it's really funny too, because I will look at this. I have the list of habits in order of kind of ideally as the day would progress. So the first habit is wake up early. The second one is work out. And I can see that just looking at the chart, the days that I woke up early are days that I worked out. And the days I slept in are days I skipped the workout. Like, it's an automatic, just like there are certain, anchor habits that when you do them, they lead to other habits. And so if you do that first most important habit, the other healthier and smart ones will also follow. And so that really is it puts an extra importance on doing that one thing that makes the biggest difference, so the rest of your day can flow from there.
I've been using a new app recently which draws kind of fancy graphs, and you can track stuff, it's subjective stuff like your energy levels out of 10, but also then it will sync up with a jawbone or whatever tracker you might be wearing on your wrist, and it'll sync your sleep stats in there. And I've been amazed to see that I've always known that sleep helps and it's good to get enough sleep, but the chart between how much sleep I've had and my energy levels is almost exactly the same. Meaning, on the days that I get less sleep, my energy levels are less high. And the days I get more sleep, my energy levels are higher. Amazing how they almost follow each other exactly right. So that's a new app that I've been using, which has been interesting to kind of track that. I never realized it was such a stark, clear correlation.
Oh, it totally is. I think it's just when you do those certain key habits that make a big difference, so many other things follow from there. I think that sleep is something that I have to focus on very intentionally, because if I'm going to go to bed early enough to wake up early enough, the whole thing has to be really well planned. But then when it is, and I follow that system, I get that great sleep. I wake up ready to begin my day. I can bounce out of bed and then go do my workout, and I feel fantastic. And then all those habits fall into place. So it really is just going back to the fundamentals of what makes your body work well. We'll go do those things and then see all those results.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Well, I know we can download your free habits tracker from your website, so I'm gonna have a good look through that and a roost around and see if I can learn some stuff from what you track.
Very cool.
So going back to the NLP, we essentially ask a series of questions based around working out what successful people do, and then learning, and taking certain elements of that and applying them to our own lives. And so at the kind of the bottom of the scale, you might say, okay, well, we'll look at environment and behavior. And we've already talked about your environment. We've already talked about how you leave the phone in the other room. And we've already talked about the fact that you get up at 5 a.m. in the morning, and that's in, what you do from there on. But then at the top of the scale, and sometimes you find out more by asking these questions, we would ask more about values and beliefs and even identity. So what are your values and beliefs about what you do and about yourself as a person and about the 5 a.m. miracle and everything else?
That's a big question. I think
and that's why it's a harder question to answer, but sometimes I like asking it because I'm always interested to know what the reply might be.
Yeah, I think that, one thing with the early morning routine, I value energy. And so that becomes my priority for how I want to begin my day. Because like you mentioned before, if you got good sleep, you were more energized. I know that energy is what leads to productivity, especially in my own life. And the more well-rested I am, the more energy I have, the more I will get done, and the more of a positive attitude I will carry with me the rest of the day. And so I value energy as kind of like the core piece of what makes my entire day function. And so if I can wake up early and be well-rested and have the nutrition and the hydration and a little bit of caffeine and have some exercise, then I'm establishing for myself a foundation that will allow the rest of the day to be high energy and productive and happy. And so I value that system and that process because I know how it makes me feel later in the day. And I want to be the kind of person who's positive and energetic and excited about what I'm doing. And so that's a real value, isn't it? You want to be someone who's positive and energetic, and I guess, with the work that you're doing, feeling fulfilled in kind of transmitting that energy to other people. Yes, exactly. I think that doing the work that I do, whether I'm podcasting or writing or coaching a client or speaking, when I'm doing these activities, I get so much energy from that experience that it just reinforces me wanting to do more of that. And I realize that part of my brand is the kind of being that positive, energetic guy, and that's because I know that's valuable for myself, and I want to just present that as much as I can. So I'm always getting back to that idea of how can I include more of those things in my day and in my life, and then translate that to the work that I do so I can really allow other people to see kind of how that process works.
Well, I mean, this podcast is all about energy, and you sound like you've got a lot of it. So, so you do drink coffee? I do, yes. Yeah? How many coffees?
It varies over time. I would say that I have probably 2 coffees per day. 2 cups. I used to do a lot of espresso instead of coffee, but my espresso machine broke about 6 months ago, and so I switched over to doing just coffee again. And one thing that's funny, people assume that espresso has more caffeine, but it actually has less. And so the quantity of my caffeine has actually increased in the last 6 months, which is very dangerous for me because I'm the kind of person that I love energy. So if I have more caffeine, I'm more energetic. But it definitely has that drawback of crashing later. So I really have to maintain strict rules around that. So I don't have caffeine after noon. I make sure that 12 p.m. is my cutoff time, and then I'm done, which really helps with sleep. And that's a much better system there. But I think caffeine for me is one thing that I have toyed back and forth between using it and not using it. I actually,
they say that's a very good idea because then you don't build up a dependence to it.
Yeah, that's true. I definitely take breaks from it and have time periods where I have none at all. What's funny is like in my undergraduate degree, I have a psychology degree, and I studied the effects of caffeine on students as my kind of like thesis in my senior year. And I only did that because I was obsessed with coffee. I just loved it. And I was looking for kind of proof that coffee was really healthy for me. I wanted to validate my own kind of addiction. And I found nothing there. Like it was. There's so much out there that coffee is good for you or bad for you. There's a lot of conflicting advice around it. So I just determined that I would use it to a healthy degree, and then I'd cut myself off. And over time, it's worked out really well.
So hang on. So that your undergraduate thesis was based on studying the effects of caffeine?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out, would students learn more if they were caffeinated or not?
And what was the result?
The result was there was no difference. And so whether they were caffeinated or not, their test results were the same.
I would have imagined that it would be, like caffeine would actually make a bit of an impact.
Yeah, that's what we assumed. That was our hypothesis, was that it would make you, score better or be more intelligent or have these better results. But it turns out that for our experiment, that was not the case.
Did you test modafinil?
No.
Yeah, it's supposed to have pretty incredible results. What about other supplements? Do you take any supplements for energy?
Not for energy, no, I don't. I have a B12 pill that I take. I just technically it does have some energy in it, but that's the only thing I take in that sense.
And apart from that, just good nutrition and a smoothie.
Yeah, I mean, lots of smoothies, a lot of salads. I'm a big fan of fruits, and so I eat a lot of fruit all day, and that's what really gives me a lot of energy as the day progresses.
Yeah. And then what time do you start to wind down? I spoke to a couple recently who talk about living an uncluttered life. And actually, when this goes out, I'm not sure if that podcast will have gone out or not. But essentially, they have, it's Betsy and Warren Talbot, and they moved to Spain, and they get up really early. And by 2 or 3, they've done their work for the day. They're relaxing on the veranda, maybe a glass of wine, enjoying the sunshine, might go out for a plate of tapas, and they're in bed by kind of 8 or 9. What about you? Would that be the case with you, that by 2 or 3 you're kind of winding down for the day, or are you pushing on?
Well, actually, it's similar to that in the sense that I do have kind of I end my kind of hardcore work for the day or in the afternoon. So what that means is that, there's certain activities that I'm going to do that require a lot of thought or a lot of creativity or a lot of kind of, mental strain. And so if I'm doing creative work, I'm writing a lot or having to work through a tough project, I do that early in the day when my brain is most alert. And then, by the time the mid-afternoon comes around, at that point I'm usually I can't think as clearly anymore. So I stop doing that kind of work, and then I shift to work that really is more mindless. So I might do just household chores, I might mow the lawn, do some laundry. I shift into just things that need to get done but don't require me to think that much. And so that's kind of the same idea. It's like I realize that there is kind of an opportune time in the day, which is early in the day. And then at the end, I'm doing things that don't require that much thought intentionally, because I know that I'm not going to get high quality results from that. And then I do have a cutoff time at the end of every day, which is 8 p.m., where I stop all work for the day, whatever I'm working on, which is, turn off the TV, turn off the phone, turn off whatever I've got going on, so I can, grab a shower, read a book, and go to sleep.
Good. And you shower before bed?
I do, yes.
Cold shower?
I recently have been actually really curious to try this because there's a guy named Wim Hof.
Yes, do you know what? I just interviewed him an hour ago.
You did?
Just before I was speaking to you, I spoke to Wim Hof. Again, I don't know if it'll be published by the time, but I've literally been speaking to him in the last hour. He is one crazy guy, and he's you talk about energy. He's just got such a lovely, positive, incredible energy about him.
That is so cool you interviewed him. Because I have not bought his course yet, but I'm really tempted to, because I'm just really curious about all the things that he talks about. I think that there's so much value in the breathing techniques and the cold exposure and all these things. So I think that may be a part of my life soon. We'll see.
All this I think, if you're going to get up at 5 a.m., you're going to have the 5 a.m. miracle, whatever time you're going to get up. I think it almost presupposes that you've slept well. What about if you haven't had a good night's sleep? The alarm goes off 5 a.m. How do you kind of recover from it to still turn your day around to make it worthwhile?
This is a good question. I think it's kind of it's a tough one because there are like I value quality sleep, and so on most days with my schedule, I'll probably sleep in just to make sure I get better sleep.
Okay.
I'm not very good at taking naps. I know some people that are really good. They can take a nap for an hour in the afternoon and just be rejuvenated from there. But I am a terrible napper. So for me, it's like if I don't get good sleep at night, it's not going to happen until the next night. And so most of the time, that means sleeping in will benefit me more than getting out of bed exhausted and trying to function from there. Some days it's not possible. My schedule means I have to get up and I have to go somewhere that I obviously can't do that. And I'll just be tired that day and try to recover as fast as I can. But I think that for most people, if you can get that good sleep all at once, that's your goal. And so you're trying to get as much of that quality rest as you possibly can before the day actually begins. If that's not possible, then you can find a way to recover. But I really like to prioritize getting as much good rest as possible.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, you are doing a great job, and I know you've just been nominated for a couple of podcast awards. Everything's going super well for you. Congratulations on that, by the way. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Something I ask everyone on this podcast is, what is one book that you would recommend and one tip for living with more energy, vitality, and motivation? So one book and one tip.
Okay, the book, the first one I'm thinking off the top of my head is one I just reread, which is Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And that is a phenomenal book if you're looking to be more productive and looking to figure out kind of what your priorities are. The book goes into a lot of detail about what an essentialist is, or someone who does things that are essential and cuts everything else.
Okay.
I feel like
so it's a message of simplicity.
Definitely. And that's one that I think that I've been going through kind of a more minimalism phase, simplicity phase for the last year or so. And I'm trying to, consume all of that information as much as I can because, I love to have new ideas. I love to try new things. I love to, surround myself with a lot of stuff, but then it becomes too much clutter. And I have to find a way to make that more simplistic. And so for me, that's been my next kind of my big current project is figuring out how to do less and own less and have less so that I can focus on the things that matter most. And I think that book is a great reminder of really how to approach that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Do you know what? I've actually been using a program that you can download for free. I think it's free, or it's very cheap anyway. And it's called Subliminal Message Pro. Have you heard of it?
I have not, no.
The idea is that in the 70s and the 80s, companies found that they could flash up in cinema adverts and in fact on TV, they could flash up for a very brief frame, perhaps 1/25th of a second, a subliminal message that the unconscious mind, the unconscious brain of the person watching would actually take in. So it might be, an advert, a kind of a simple advert for whatever it was, but then the 1/25th of a frame would say, buy McDonald's, or whatever it might be. And pretty soon, this subliminal advertising was banned because really it was unethical because it was going in at the unconscious mind, but not the conscious mind. But now you can kind of do the same thing with positive habits and positive affirmations by downloading different programs like Subliminal Message Pro, which is actually running on my computer at the moment while we do this interview. And the reason that I thought of it is because you talking about simplicity and what you called essentialism, is that what it was?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to what I'm working on at the moment in terms of simplicity. I know, as you say, when I'm doing less and I keep my schedule simple, and I don't take on too many things in a day, my creativity fires up and I just feel happy and more fulfilled as well. So I've got Subliminal Message Pro running a few subliminal messages about simplicity which pop up every 25 or 30 seconds. Sometimes my conscious mind notices them. Sometimes I don't notice them consciously, but the unconscious mind will be noticing them. So it's just a kind of a way of getting an affirmation in on a regular basis without doing anything. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that idea. I'm going to try that out for sure. That's a really cool app.
I think it's free, and it's quite fun to use. It comes with loads of free preloaded messages, like
nice.
I feel strong, or I make more money, or I share my money with others, or whatever it might be. But then what I like is you can tailor it with your own messages. So yeah, it's good fun.
That's great stuff.
So that was the book. What about the tip for living with more energy, vitality, and motivation?
I think that outside of waking up early and working out and those things that matter, I think that one thing that allows me to have a lot more energy in my day is to simply schedule in more things that I love to do. And this this tip came from a guy named Sean Stevenson that I interviewed on my podcast probably a year ago. There's multiple Sean Stevensons though. This is a Sean Stevenson that is he's a little guy. He's like 3 feet tall.
Okay.
And he gives public speeches and he's a really phenomenal phenomenal person in a lot of ways, but one of the things that he talks about is having this when life works list. And what that means is you make a list of things that when I'm doing these things, my life is great. And so for me, that thing includes going for, whether it's hiking in the woods, going for a long run, because I love to run marathons. And so running's a great one for me. There's certain activities that I list out that says that these are things that when I do them, I feel great. And so my goal every day is how can I include those things in my life as often as possible? Because when I do that, whether it's passionate work that I'm excited about, or exercise, or something that I'm just genuinely excited about, if that's in my day is going to be better. I think there's a lot of times where we get into just habits where we're doing things that we've been doing or doing work that's always there, but we're not being intentional about doing things that actually make us happy to be alive. And I think that that's one of my goals. The more that those things are baked into my day, the happier my day is, and the more energetic I am, the more passionate I am. And so that's how I want to schedule my day, is to make sure that at least once a day, those things are included somewhere.
Jeff, you are just bang on it all of the time. I feel like I could never quite hit your levels of extreme energy and focus. You're doing a great job.
Well, I mean, thank you, but I also, I'm not perfect at this. This is a constant work in progress, and it's one of those things where, I have a vision board in my home office that has these kind of reminders and,
he's got a vision board as well. Unbelievable.
Well, and that's there for a reason, because I need those reminders. But kind of like the idea of having those messages on your computer that pop up every now and then. I have these quotes and these verses and these messages that resonate with me, that remind me of the kind of person I want to be or the kind of focus I need to have. And if I see that all the time, then I'm more likely to act in that way. So I want to make sure that I'm always reminded of those things, because if I'm not, then my default habit is to probably do things that won't be those great things. And so I want to make sure that I'm always on track.
Well, look, it's really been great to talk to you, and I think the thing that I'm most looking forward to putting into action, and I'm going to do so as soon as possible, is to get an alarm clock and actually just leave my phone out of my room at night, because that just takes away the temptation to look at it last thing at night and first thing in the morning. And I think just that alone is going to be really worth the price of admission for interviewing you, Jeff. So thank you so much for that. Really, genuinely, I think that's going to make a big difference to me.
Well, that's great stuff. Yeah, I'm glad. And as simple as it is, that's all it really takes, is those small little habit changes to make a really big difference.
Yeah. And obviously your podcast is crushing it at the moment. Your book is as well. Where can people find out more about you and listen to your podcast and kind of just dig in a bit deeper?
Sure. JeffSanders.com is the place to be in the website. The 5 a.m. Miracle podcast is on iTunes, and the 5 a.m. Miracle book is on Amazon. Good stuff.
And I highly and heartily recommend both. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on Zestology, and keep on with the fully focused lifestyle.
Definitely. Well, thanks, Tony.
Cheers, Jeff. Take care. That's it. Thank you to Jeff. If you are someone who gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning, or perhaps you're inspired to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning after listening to Jeff Sanders, let me know. Post on social media or send me an email, tony@tonywrighton.com, and I'd like to hear from you. Also, if you want to share this with someone else, that'd be epic. Someone else who wants to get up at 5 a.m. Surely there's nobody who wants to get up at 5 a.m. in the morning, but if you do know anyone who's mad enough to want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, or you think it'd be good for them, then share this podcast with them. That is pretty much it for this week's Zestology. Remember, we've got the new Friday podcasts now, which is it's just 5 minutes and me looking at new stuff Friday, working title. But yeah, I'd love to know what you think of that. I'm walking around I'm walking around the park recording this, and I thought these guys next to me were having a massive argument, but I don't think they are. There's a bit of laughter now. What was I saying? Oh yeah, New Stuff Friday. It's a new Friday podcast, which is coming out midweek. Just something a little bit extra for you. It's 5 minutes. It's just me, and it's me reviewing new stuff that could help you live with more energy. So that's that. That's the end of my podcast. Happy to report that the couple on the tennis court are not arguing, but actually having quite a nice time. And thank you for listening to Zestology. Have a zesty week.